with my own background, liking sports but not having a lot of opportunity in sports in the 60s particularly, the growth of women's sports and finally the recognition that something needed to be done to gain a balance was apparent.
For Verallyn, the coaching was a calling more than a job.
When I went through the list of current inductees in the Hall of Fame, there are really only 2 female coaches on there, that they're in there because they coached women's athletics. Teach Kilgore and Jane Swanson. They're both credited with starting women's athletics at Carroll, and they said, you know, that women's athletics really didn't get started till 1971 to 74. She came in about 72, and so she should be included in that group. She coached gymnastics, she coached women's track. Then she started the cross-country team. Then she was coaching men's and women's swimming and diving. So a lot of sports. And there are very few other coaches in the list, male or female, who coached as many sports.
She was working at a time when resources weren't provided to her in the same way that they were provided to her male counterparts.
It was a challenge. Carroll was presented with, now we are going to implement the women's program because of Title IX into the men's program.
Actually, Carroll made a commitment early on to be able to support women's sports to the degree that they could within the budgetary limitations and the size limitations that they had. So I think they were being proactive here on the Carroll campus early on.
She gave a lot of herself. She was incredibly generous with her time and her resources.
Those first few years were interesting. I know the women knew that they were breaking new ground and had to work hard to do it.
Budgets were really the reason that we had to make do and then also be creative.
During that first year, the 1973 season, as we were getting ready to go to the state competition, I've mentioned that there wasn't much budget money available at all.
She went out and bought patterns, bought material. A lot of the athletes cut out the patterns.
They set up sewing machines in the hallways in their dormitories, and in between classes, women would take the pattern, begin to sew uniforms. The athletes would come up to the floor to be fitted for their own individual uniform, and a dozen, and one for me, a dozen uniforms were made to be able to participate in the WWIAC that spring.
Well, the word pioneer comes right to the top in that. It certainly shows her willingness, her character, her strengths to connect with students and be able to offer to the student the opportunity to compete.
As women, as emerging women, the other thing that she did was she really modeled to us what it meant to be a strong woman moving with tremendous grace through this world.
I'd like to congratulate you, Charlie, because that's what I know you as, better than Verallyn. You've been, you know, an advisor to me forever, and I really, really appreciate that. And just, you know, can't thank you enough.
I really believe that you were the pioneer of women's cross country. I'm happy for you, and I'm honored to be a friend, and I congratulate you for this honor to be inducted into the Carroll Hall of Fame.
40 years ago, a lot of the messages that I received as a woman were not the kinds of messages that I needed. And I felt that you showed me another way to be in the world, to be a strong person, to be kind, to be generous. So thank you very much. Congratulations to you, and I'm really pleased that Carroll University is recognizing you with this honor.
I think as they look back on it, they know that the struggles they went through, the persistence that they went through, the effort that they went through, did indeed provide a strong base for what was to come later. I owe them a great debt of thanks for being able to help me with this honor.